Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 25 of the Office Hours podcast. Here's a quick summary of what we had a chance to talk about today. We talked a little bit about work from home and return to the office and how different companies do these things and different policies surrounding it, and my personal likes and dislikes of either one of them. We talked a little bit, well, not a little bit, quite a lot actually, about mentorship in general and what qualities you need to have and what style you can have or do, or like what I do specifically, and how to better build relationships in order to facilitate learning and things of that nature. And we also talked about giving mentorship and receiving mentorship advice. So if any of those things are of interest to you, stick around and we hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Hello, and welcome to the episode 25 of the Office Hours podcast. Yet another mini milestone on our quest to greatness, number 25, quarter of 100. Big numbers, big leagues. Mo, what do you think about that?
I'm really happy. Honestly, it's a really huge milestone. You remember when we started?
Yeah.
1 through 25. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to the bigger numbers, the 50s, the hundreds, and
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
to reach more people too. So that'd be really nice.
Yeah. It's actually quite amazing looking back at it because, when you just do number one, it's like 25 seems like such a far off thing, and now it's here.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, we'll be on
totally.
pace for pretty much an episode a week. Not always, because there's family things and holidays and whatnot, and you know I'm not
Yeah, but
as
we
as
try.
professional as some of the people who are like, oh my god, I have to release one every day, no
Yeah,
questions asked. So I can
yeah,
allow myself to relax a little bit, but still pretty good.
yeah, we try. Good, good work, Vasili.
Yeah, yeah.
Good work.
Well, let's get on with it.
Yeah. How have you been though? How
Oh,
is work,
yeah.
life?
This week is a complete struggle. I'm doing on call. I'm getting up at 6 a.m. every day, and there's like minor fires everywhere, and not no major fires, thankfully, but like
Mm,
medium-sized manageable fires. So that's fine.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm just completely exhausted by the end of every day. I have literally no energy to do anything. You
Yeah.
know, play some video games. I made a kid rage quit yesterday in a game, so I kind of feel bad about that. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
I mean, you know, so I was having this conversation earlier this week about how most people that work from home these days are like, you expect yourself to have more energy after your day, because, you sit in front of a computer and you just work. At least that's what it looks like from outside, like if you're looking at someone. But it, I noticed that most times after work, you're really tired. It's just as good as like
Yeah,
you have. And I wonder where the energy is going because, like, you're sitting in one spot. I imagine, hypothetically, you're just sitting in one spot. That's not kinetic energy. If my physics is still good, that's just like, how do you call that energy now? In one spot, but um,
potential energy.
potential energy. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. So I don't know how it works. I'm just trying to think about it. So clearly, my
Yeah,
physics is
I think it's
it's not
lack of
very good.
variety. I don't think it's necessarily like physical energy expenditures. It's more of a, if I remember the days at the office, you get to move around the office, you go to the kitchen, you grab a drink, you chat with some people,
Hmm.
maybe you go for lunch, maybe you go on a walk around your office complex or something. You have a little bit of different types of activities every day. We would play ping pong quite a bit. We would
Hmm.
play ping
Hmm.
pong almost every day. There'd be like
Hmm.
a special channel on Slack, and it's just like ping pong, yeah, ping pong, and everybody grabs their paddles and we go play ping pong for
Yeah.
like half an hour. It gives you like a nice little energetic workout, especially against some of those guys that were just nuts. We had this one guy, he was doing QA. He
Hmm.
was from India, and he would like wear dress shoes and a suit when he was playing ping pong, and he was just like shredding people. And I was like, Navjot, how the hell do you do that? And it was just ridiculous. Some people would like change into
Yeah.
like more athletic attire, something like light and breathable, and
Mhm.
he's just there in like not a three-piece. He didn't have a vest, but he had like a proper two-piece suit and dress shoes, and he'd be playing ping pong in that thing, and everyone was just like, "What's going on?" So yeah, anyway, you get variety, and at home, it's you spend, I think, more time kind of concentrating and focusing on what you're doing. And
Yeah.
the brain is the most energy demanding organ in your entire body, so
That's
no
what I was gonna
wonder
say.
where it all goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because like this is what I resulted into, you know. I was thinking, I remember reading somewhere like the brain takes up a lot of energy, and then um based on the type of work you do anyway at home, it requires a lot of concentration, and that in turn require a lot of like brain work.
Hmm.
So it seems, but you know, the difference is that if you're doing work for yourself, let's say you're working on something like your own personal project for 8 hours, it doesn't feel as equally energy demanding as when you actually do work for 8 hours.
Huh.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I think.
Like if
Yeah,
if you
yeah, yeah.
like if you like sit down and just do some of your like pet projects for like let's even say 4 hours, you don't feel it the same way you sit and they. But I wonder how. I wonder why. I'm wondering like,
I have an idea.
okay.
So when you work on your own project,
Mhm,
by definition, it's just you. So there's nobody to
mhm,
interrupt you or distract you unless you want to be
mhm.
distracted or interrupted. But in
Yeah,
like a regular teamwork scenario, there's like Slack, there's emails, everybody's
exactly.
constantly on your case. So even though, like I'm saying, you have a lack of variety in terms of activity type, but in here, like you have a constant context switching. And context switching is probably the most expensive part, right? Because it's like
Mhm.
when a context is switching, you need to unload everything that you've loaded into your brain, load like the new data set, kind of have it settle all in place, work on a task that requires all of that data, and then you get interrupted and you like throw it all out and start all over again. And I think that initial bootstrapping process of like marshalling all the data that you need for any given task is the most expensive one. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's probably a crappy analogy, but you know how we have like in a computer we have like RAM, and then on the CPU there's cache, and you
Yeah.
load some data
Mhm,
in the cache, and then once it's
mhm,
in cache you can do it really, you can access it really fast, but
mhm.
memory access is expensive. So it's the same thing here. You start working on some ticket or whatever, or some problem, you need to bootstrap all of that data, and like once it's there, it's accessible immediately and it's fast, but that original thing takes a lot of energy. I think I could be completely wrong, but that's how it feels like. So when you're forced to switch those contexts 35 times a day, that's the thing that drains all of the energy out of you by the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. And also the sometimes like if you I don't know, maybe for any other person, like for me, sometimes I'm like paying so much attention to the communication channel like Slack, and I'm just waiting like maybe someone is gonna message me, and I feel like that anticipation actually takes even more energy than the actual job itself because I'm
Yeah.
just like sitting there waiting like, oh, I don't want to keep anybody waiting, but at the same time, I still need to
Huh.
concentrate on what I'm doing. So like you're just like
You
spreading.
know, that kind of feels a little bit like anxiety behavior. So it's
Maybe I used
probably not good. I bet it raises your cortisol because you're awaiting attack from unexpected place in a sense. If you think about it,
it
you're
could
like
be. It
you're
could
like
be. You
staring
know,
at the bush, waiting for the tiger to
hmm
jump out of you so you can like leap
hmm
away in time. So maybe it's not a good pattern. Maybe you gotta not try not to do that. Just like
It's
when they
true.
message, like who cares? If they need you that much, they can message you twice. Whatever, no big deal.
It's true. And I started looking into it, and now I think I have a better way. It's not. I don't know if it's better. I don't like to keep people waiting um for Slack because I find like it kind of shows your professionalism towards some stuff like this. But at the same time, I think I need to prioritize my, like you said, my mental health a bit more. So like now it's okay to take a little bit of like a minute or two to think about what I just read and
Mhm.
like to before I answer or like this kind of things. I think this helps me more even to give better responses
Yeah.
and also to manage my energy, to be honest. Because like before now, I remember I'm probably anticipating the sound more than actually like more than anything else. So that bothered me a lot. You're right. It's not good. Maybe um anyone else can learn from this because it drains a lot. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah. And we talked about this too, episode 22.
yeah,
Check it out. It's like when people bring their problems to
yeah,
you and they become your
yeah,
problems, right? Because maybe, like you say, oh, I don't want to keep them waiting, but maybe some of it can be like I remember so many occasions where I haven't had that problem of having to immediately respond. I mean, if I see it, I'll try to respond it, but if I don't see it, it doesn't bother me as much. And
mhm.
sometimes I would have a message in my Slack, somebody's asking some question, and I haven't responded, and then 5 minutes later, like, oh, never mind, I figured it out. It's like, well, there you go, right? Like,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
guess the policy should be it's like,
mhm.
okay, well, don't respond in 5 minutes in case they just figure it out. And if they don't figure it out, then respond. Unfortunately, with Slack is once the message is read, it's read. And
Mhm.
like you have so many channels and DMs in Slack that it's impossible to see what's been happening. And their new interface redesign makes things kind of weird. That whole activity
Yeah.
tab and DMs and all of that. It's just where do I even go to find stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
I
sometimes
agree.
activity can be useful because you can open it and then it'll keep the messages unread, but you can at least see like half the message in there and kind of see if it's urgent or not. So
Yeah, you
then
can go
then
to
I would
unread
go back
messages.
and like respond to it and then it disappears and I
Yeah,
know that I did respond to it.
yeah.
So
What
yeah.
I do, what I do is that I go to the unread messages so you can see the unread messages. So you can see the message, but you didn't open it yet. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
you have like a few minutes to like
Yeah.
think about what you're gonna say or like think if you even want to engage in the conversation. But yeah, anyway, I think yeah, maybe it's a good thing the way I'm managing it now. I don't know. We'll see. I'll
Hmm.
tell you in the next few episodes. I'll
Yeah.
let you know. But yeah, this is my resolution to this. So anyway, so yeah, I was gonna ask you, yeah, how do you how nowadays, like at least like since like 2020 or something, we've been working from home and like we've had different habits and different way to replicate how we used to work from the office. But now that we just have this type of work arrangement, how what would you say you've done for yourself to give yourself the same feeling of how you used to work from the office? Because I remember you really didn't like working from home at some point. But how have you adapted to the environment now, like your
Mm.
workstations? What do you do differently?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of funny because like I did not like working from home and now so we had definitely a couple of years to kind of compare the two. And I'm still not exactly a fan for various reasons. Mostly it's lack of direct communication. And it's funny, we had like a type of all hands today at my work. And invariably during Q&A session, people are always asking, is there any way that engineers don't have to do RTO for so many days out of a week? And every time they double down and be like, no. Which is also interesting because I talked to somebody from two companies before. So that was the company that I was working on where when everybody went to work from home, me and a couple of other people stayed at the office. So there was like 3 people in the office out of 200.
Yeah.
Everybody else was working from home. And we decided like, no, we're going to go to the office. Home is just not the right place. And okay, my living situation was different. We were living in like a 1 bedroom. So I was working in the main room. My girlfriend was there also at the same time. And it's just like, it was a tiny place. I had a tiny desk. I didn't have a door that I could close. So it was a different arrangement. Like working from the office was definitely preferable for various reasons, right? And that company, I talked to them and they basically stopped leases on 2 out of 3 office spaces that they had, and most people work from home. So they actually said, you know what, this works for us. Why would we pay more money for all this extra office space that we're not using? And they broke the lease, and everybody's working from home. And I don't know, I haven't had a chance to ask if it affected them much, but it just shows like you can do it this way, you can do it that way. People who are saying that there's only one way of doing it are probably wrong, because ultimately we're all adaptable and we'll figure out best ways to work in any given situation. And now people, especially in Toronto, and I guess in Vancouver too, the commute, it's such a pain. Like all of the benefits of seeing people face to face can easily be, just overshadowed by the fact that you have to do commute at peak hours. Gas is crazy expensive. Car insurance is crazy expensive. Weather sucks. We have like snow and this, like you get more tired. You waste so much time on a road. Like, okay, if you're listening to podcasts or audiobooks, maybe you get something out of it. But otherwise, the fact that you have to arrange your entire life around your work hours, like if you have any errands, you can't, like you have to take days off. It's just so many things. Like the amount of time, you can't reshuffle your time when you work from the office. Like you cannot say, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours in the middle of the day to run an errand that I need to run, and then I'll compensate for it by staying a little bit longer, right? And so it's not even that it affects the quality of your work as much as it just unnecessarily frustrates you, and that frustration seeps into everything you do. Like every time you think about it, you're like, oh, God damn it, I have to go to the office again, where I know for a fact that it would not have made a difference if I worked from home today, right? Or maybe it would have made a little bit of difference. Okay, maybe, sure. Like he was saying, oh, you know how we had these 30-minute phone calls and now they can be solved in a 10-minute conversation? It's like, okay, well, you improved by 3 times. But how many of those 30-minute calls each person is doing per day across the entire month? A handful, maybe. So sure, you saved a couple of hours in that time that you shrunk those calls into shorter face-to-face meetings where people can just sort stuff out quickly. But then every day, everybody has to spend 2 hours there and back to drive, times all of them. Like, is it any better? I don't know. I don't think so. I have a feeling that if a person can choose when to come, then they'll come whenever it works out for everybody's benefit, and not just some arbitrarily set schedule of thou shalt occupy your buttocks on a seat in the office 4 times out of 5 in a week. So I don't know. I don't know. It's weird, but it is what it is.
I'm really happy because now you like it. Because I remember like the first time we talked about like many years, like I said many years, like,
well, it's been over 2 years, so it is many years.
When we first talked about this, I remember how you felt about it. Like, I think most people have this challenge with like the psychological effect of it, and I understand it, because sometimes when you work from home, it's like really quiet, and like you need like some like environmental noise, just a little bit, not too much.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel lonely. If you live by yourself, it's even can be a bit complicated, and especially for people who don't like to be alone. So I understand the psychological struggle of it, but now I'm curious, how did you move from how you felt about it in the first place to this point?
I just got
like this right now.
I just got used to it. And again, I can't say that I necessarily like it. There are certainly things that I dread about working from office. Mostly in terms of commute. The fact that I have to wake up even like okay, if I were working for a Canadian or like for Vancouver-based company, obviously I would work Pacific time zone hours, so I wouldn't have to wake up as early. But still, you have to wake up earlier, you know, you have to drive, you have to be there at a certain time, you have to usually like go through morning traffic where everybody's working from the office. Or sorry, everybody's going to the office around the same time, everybody's coming back around the same time. So that basically guarantees you're going to be stuck in traffic unless you go super early on the way there and maybe early on the way back. So that part I don't like. The fact that I cannot talk to people face to face, I don't like that either, working from home. The fact that my life has very little variety because, you know, I work from home and then when I'm done, it's dark outside and there isn't really anywhere to go. Like it's very monotonous. It's like Groundhog's Day every day. You wake up, you go to your computer, and when you're done, I'm like, lately, like last several months, the work has been really intense and I've been so exhausted that, you know, I barely have any motivation to do anything else. And I'm trying really hard because there's other things that I need to be doing and I'm like trying really hard to do them. And it doesn't always work out. You know, I'd like to go to the gym more. I'd like to do some training more. You know, I have like all of these reminders on my phone asking like, hey, did you do this today? I'm like, didn't get a chance to do that today. Oops. Right. And even then, all of those things, if I were to do them, they're kind of confined to my home. So I never leave, you know. I kind of have imprisoned myself in this place out of my own volition, ultimately. Like, I mean, I could go outside and do stuff, but right now it's like pissing rain and shit weather. So I don't want to. There's no motivating factor for me to go outside unless I have to like go to a store to pick up some food. So it ends up being very monotonous. And because of how monotonous it is, time flies really fast. You don't notice how quickly time goes by. You know, it's been May and now it's going to be May in a couple of months again. And what do I have to show for it, in a sense, right? So, but I guess that's in general what happens with time. Time starts moving around faster. So it definitely has its downsides. I like the fact that I have a room with a door and I have everything set up the way I want. I like that it's quiet. But there's also a bunch of things that I don't like. So I don't know. I don't really have necessarily plans to change jobs, but it would be nice if I had an option to go to the office and meet the people I work with. Like, I never met anyone I work with in person. It's always been through like a camera and a set of headphones, right? Yeah. And the other kind of thing that is a little bit cringe, it's like when they had a Christmas party in Toronto office, Vancouver people got dick, like nothing at all. And it's like, guys, you're a grocery outlet with whoever knows how many stores, and you cannot even send people a little care package of products that you yourself sell. Like, Jesus Christ, what's up with that? It's like, how cheap do you have to be? So I was, it's not that I like really needed it, but it would have been nice, you know. It would have been a little nice to kind of know that they think about these things. Because I remember 2 companies ago, I remember during COVID, they sent people a care package and it was so very sloppily put together. It was pretty terrible. It was like really bad, really bad. Everyone was like, what the hell is this thing? This is insulting.
It's a hard job, you know.
Huh?
It's a hard job to put together a care package.
Sure. But then when people said like, guys, this is crap. Like, sadly, it's shit. Can you do better? They actually did another one a month later and it was much nicer. And everyone was like, okay, thank you very much, right? But here, like, nothing.
So maybe you should complain this time. Maybe maybe they'd probably be nice. Maybe they have even more resources to.
It just goes in a little notebook. It's like,
okay, you put it down like. Anyway.
So yeah, back to your question. I got used to it. Is how it happened.
I will ask the reason why I'm asking this question is 'cause, like, I remember like I was trying to sell the idea of working from home to a friend recently, and she actually prefers to go to the office to work. And I was thinking about it, like, I don't understand it. Like, for me, I think for a long time now, I've mostly worked from home. I think even pre-2020, for some time, I worked from home. But the thing is, I don't understand how much time you put into like, and she has to travel like an hour to get to work, and you still enjoy. I don't know. I don't know if I would really enjoy the present. I mean, you must really have really nice coworkers if you really want to go to the office every day to work, and you have to travel 1 hour every day to do it. So I was just trying to understand it.
Yeah.
But then another thing that came to mind is like I feel for me, the way I got used to it, or the way I conditioned my mind or my brain to actually prefer to work from home, is I think I like my tools better. Do you
Mm,
understand?
yeah.
Like for me, I enjoy my space. If
Yeah.
you go to the office, you get to use the company's tools, like the company screen, the keyboard. So even if it's not convenient, you have to just like enjoy it. There's nothing you can do
Yeah.
about it. Like
Yeah.
you just
Or
get to get used to
you have to
it.
bring your own. We had a guy,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't know what the situation at the office is at my current company because I've never been.
Mhm.
Um, but at a previous company with the office, at the end they had everybody a standing desk, like an automatic one. Everyone got upgraded. Developers were all had dual monitors. I think people who weren't developers didn't really get two monitors, but they mostly didn't need them. Arguably, the monitor that I have at home is much nicer. A lot of people like brought their own mechanical keyboards and whatnot. But again, in the office, it can be kind of weird because if you like those clackety clickety keyboards, a lot of people at the office are gonna hate you because they're not
Yeah.
everyone's taste, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they had you can get reimbursement for headphones and things like that, and it does depend on the company. Like every company was doing its own thing, uh, but yeah, some do more, some do less. But if you like right now, they're returning everybody back to the office, and I don't think that there's enough space. So a lot of people are working in a kind of hot desk scenario where you don't even have a permanent spot with your monitor and your keyboard and your mouse.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not a germaphobe, but I can imagine how for some people it might be kind of gross, you know. And
No.
I
Well.
mean, I can probably work on a shitty monitor, but I'd rather not because I have to stare at a damn thing 8 hours a day, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I have like a nice 32-inch 4K. Not to brag, but it's a really nice monitor.
You get
I'm
to
really glad
brag.
that I've upgraded, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I had to go to the office and downgrade to something crappier, I would be less happy. It would
Mhm.
bug me ongoing. And as I said again, like this constant resentment and frustration is gonna seep into everything you do. So why would you put me in a situation like that? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. So this is what I think, and I feel like this these small details also affect your productivity. For example, um, if you go to the office and first of all you're trying to deal with the sitting arrangement, maybe the chair is not as comfortable as the one you have at your office, your home office, and first you have to deal with like those little things, little discomfort. I know if you have no choice, you probably get used to it. It's human nature. You probably get used to that again. But I feel the there was one I feel the choice of being able to enjoy your own tools, kind of makes the work a bit like more desirable. And somewhere where I read for the quote, like a man is just as good as his tools. I don't know if I said that correctly.
We had that conversation before, right? I
Yeah,
don't remember which episode it was, but we definitely had that conversation before.
I think we probably like had the conversation like pre podcast.
No, 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 no. It was about the tools. Like
Yeah.
whether you make the tools make you or you make the tools, you know. Something along
Yeah,
those lines. I'll try to find it and link it once it's out.
yeah. So, so I think those like small details can improve productivity and probably improve creativity too,
Yeah, yeah.
and probably like do better. But I guess so. This is how I condition my mind. But anyway, I was just gonna ask you about how you feel about this type of things. But and also now that you have like a more managerial role, like you have to talk to people more. I'm wondering how you feel about doing this virtually, because you had the experience of doing it in person from like, the boot camp, the
Hmm.
other positions that you've had. But now that you have to do it virtually, do you feel like you have the same impact, or you have learned to do it differently?
I think it's a little bit different because I guess it was a different role too. At a boot camp, it was more proactive. I could seek
Mhm.
out people who looked confused and just target them. Right now, it's a bit more reactive because people usually come to me for information. So there's like multiple people vying for my attention, so to speak, and I have to just figure out the time to, you know, help everybody. Ultimately, it's not that different. Like, yeah, the proactive part, I don't really have time left over for it because of
Mhm.
everything else. And we have scheduled meetings which work. We have impromptu stuff. There's like huddles in Slack which mostly work. Uh, it's annoying to having to use different tools, and there's like just some stuff in technology that just drives me nuts. We talked about how like most people should be surprised that any of this actually works, and
Oh yeah,
like Slack constantly loses microphone for many people.
true.
It's like if you join a huddle and you speak and there isn't that little white frame around your face, it means it can't hear
Mhm.
you. It means other
Yeah,
people can't hear you either, and you have to restart the bloody thing for it to start working again. Why? So every time it's like, can you? Every freaking conversation is like, oh, can you hear me? Can you see my shared screen? Can you hear me? Can you see my face?
yeah,
It's like, why do we have to ask these things? It should just
yeah,
work, and it doesn't. 99% of the time, there's gonna be someone with some sort of screwed up situation. So we literally spend like minutes and minutes. Like maybe that's where all that time actually goes. Like the first 10 minutes of that 30-minute call is just getting everybody and their hardware to work correctly. Whereas in person, you just like, is there air molecules between us to vibrate when I talk and you can hear me? Yes. Okay, good. Technology
yeah,
sorted, right?
yeah.
Um, so apart from, or like, I like that on Slack, there's a mode where I can draw on people's screens from my screen if they're screen sharing.
Yeah.
But in Teams, I can't do that. It's like, why? It's such a trivial thing. Like, why can't you, like, I need to point to something. Can I please do that?
But you
But
get whiteboards on Teams though.
But it's like this whole thing. In Slack, I just press a button and I draw, and in
Yeah.
there it's like, oh, the whiteboard. Let's write an email to the PTO so they can approve it or something. I don't know. It just feels too big for something so
True.
simple. But anyway, like, and the funny thing is again, is all these paper cuts. You just learn to work around them, and you curse and you spit every time it happens. You're like, oh fuck, I guess I'll just do it again this time. But there's never permanent solution to this, right? So in terms of talking to other people, I don't really have problems talking to other people virtually or face to face. Face to face might be nicer, uh, but this is fine too. And one thing that kind of annoys me, and I kind of get it too, is that most people don't turn their cameras on, which again is probably not a good thing overall. Mental health wise, it's just like, again, you're just hearing voices of random people in your head. That must be weird. But like, okay, fair enough. Like I wake
Yeah.
up at 6 a.m. I don't want to wake up at 5:30 to take a shower right away. So the first half a day before I had a chance to take a shower, I don't turn my camera on. Like like, you don't want to see that. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I have one-on-ones or something scheduled, I usually prepare myself. And usually for one-on-ones, people do turn on their cameras. But like in smaller meetings, sometimes I just turn it on in the beginning to kind of wave hello to everybody. And then if there's slides or shared screen, I turn myself off as not to, distract people from that. So there's like quirks and weirdness around it that, again, everybody kind of gotten used to. And I think after 3 years, or 4, however many it's been, we pretty much figured out a way to do it. Is it ideal? No. Is it workable? Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we're still doing things and delivering. So yeah, it works.
From our relationship, I can tell that your mentorship style could probably, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Could probably be very connecting with the people like that you're working with. You try to build a connection, and it's more like becoming like friends in a way, and then you can share your experiences. But the connection for you will probably be the door to you actually sharing your experience. And maybe I'm wrong. So maybe we should discuss your mentorship style, because I was wondering how you build these connections with people virtually, because I understand I understand how the dynamics is different, and you probably, if you don't see people or you don't even get to like know them, especially except they only have a question for you,
Right.
and these calls
Yeah,
are like
yeah,
5
yeah.
minutes.
No, that's a good question, and a good topic in general. Is that with some of the people, especially newer ones, I did set up one-on-ones where we get to talk about whatever, and it's funny how it's different. Like every person that Fridays I had, so half of my day was basically like 5 half-hour slots for different people to do one-on-ones, like back to back, and everybody talks about different things, and it's kind of cool because it's like I can talk about this subject with this person, but it probably wouldn't register as much if I do the same subject with that other person, but they have a subject of their own that we can talk about. And I find that it also depends on the other person. It's like how much they want to get into that type of thing, right? Because for some people, they might feel a little bit kind of guarded, like they treat it more as like work. Whenever they start giving me like work updates, I'm like, okay, yeah, that this person is probably not interested in random stuff. They treat it way too seriously, and that's fine too. I mean, whatever. But it did help me to build a more personal relationship with some people. But like not everybody on a team. Some people, we have like direct huddles one-on-one for work thing, and as thing, like, I don't know, you like running a build and the shitty CI takes 15 minutes to build something, so you just like sitting together on a huddle and you're just gonna start talking about random things, right? So a little bit of that can happen, but it's not very deliberate. In terms of mentorship, if it comes to technical skills specifically, I don't necessarily need to know the backstory, right? Because it's about solving this one particular problem right in front of your face. Like the backstory doesn't really enter that much into it. But if we're talking about your future goals, then obviously it would be better to know the context around it, right? And more details, because that would make it better, right? So it's situational. Yeah. And overall, I don't know. I don't know how I would describe it. I try not to be snobbish about my knowledge. So I usually just kind of like, I'd be like, yeah, well, like whatever. I had a bunch of time to learn it, and you'll learn it too with time eventually. So it's not like some great achievement or anything like that, right? And I know that some people who are very knowledgeable, they tend to be more snobbish about it. And that
True.
usually tends to rub people the wrong way because it's like, who does this guy think he is, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's really not that difficult. Um, and I've been thinking about some subjects like introverts versus extroverts and things like that. And a lot of people have
Mhm.
this, like, I'm more introverted, but if you are talking to me in person, you probably might not really think that. Not you, but like whoever is talking to
Okay.
me, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Because to me, being introverted is not the fact that I don't like talking to people. I like talking to people just fine. It's just that I need some time to get away from people when I need to, right? That's the big
Yeah.
difference. Like, I need the time to be away from people, and extroverts, they need the time to be with people. So it's not that I don't have people skills because I'm introverted. It's just like when I want to go back to my cave and sit there for a day, let me do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can relate with this. And most people expect, like, when you describe yourself as being an introvert, they expect you to be like, oh, just quiet, you
You
don't
just like,
talk, you just like this. Yeah,
yeah,
but this is not what it means to be an introvert, you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
This is not what it means. Like, you could socialize, you could do everything. It's just like you need time to
You
be
just
by
need you
yourself to
time. Yeah,
recharge.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, to recharge.
yeah.
Meanwhile, it's different for being an extrovert. But going back to the question I asked earlier, I was gonna ask this question about which one would you prefer? So now you stated like two different approaches to mentorship. It depends on like what the goal is in the what the goal of the mentee is probably. So some people they just want to solve some technical things, and some people they actually like need a mentor for like a longer period of time to build like a career, like or certain things. Which one would you prefer to do? Would you prefer to be with someone for like a month, solve some technical things, and just or would you prefer to have a long-term relationship with someone?
I mean, why not both? Like, do I have to make that choice? What is
No.
what is making me make that specific choice? Like, I feel like you can do either, right? Like, if you were to come to me with some specific
Mhm,
technical question, I would have no
mhm.
problem answering that all the same, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I like either. I probably started more on the technical side, but since then expanded a little bit more. But it one is sort of a subset of a bigger thing. So if I do the bigger
Mhm.
thing, by default, I do the other thing too. So it's
Yeah.
not a choice really, just part of the same package.
The reason why I asked this question is because like sometimes I feel it depends on like people have preferences on relationships.
Yeah,
Some people will feel, um, especially if you have the intention of being with many people across your own career, also, because while you're doing this, you're also learning things from people. I feel like as a mentor, you should also be able to learn from your mentee. I think the learning should not just be one direction, in one direction. It should somehow go both ways. No, you're not probably learning, you're not probably learning technical stuff. You're probably learning personality stuff on how to, maybe how to relate to people or little things. But anyway,
yeah. I think
some
I
people
think I think yeah,
prefer.
that would be a natural process, but at the same time, uh I'm not entirely convinced about that. And besides, I'm very firmly set in my habits, and it's way more effort for me to change my habits according to somebody else's arbitrary standard of how the communication between people should be. And it's
Mm,
more of a, by this time, I,
mhm,
I don't have anything to prove to anybody. And if you don't like my communication style, you're welcome not to use it. Like, it's fine. Like, it's
yeah,
okay. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over somebody telling me like, "Oh, I don't like the way that you communicate." It's like, yeah, you have your opinion. I respect it. Fair
yeah,
enough. Am I gonna
yeah.
change because you've expressed that opinion? Chances are no. So, you know
No,
that that yeah, it is what it
it,
is.
no. this is different. Like what I'm talking about. So for example, let's say you with someone like say for example me for example, and we are talking about a certain topic, and you while we're having this conversation, you can see how I think about this topic. You know, you can see uh, how I think about it, and maybe like the way you discuss it with me and like you help me to get through it could be a good lesson for you the next time you're talking to someone else.
Right.
You know, another mentee or another someone, like you can use the knowledge that you learned while talking to me to talk to a person. This is what I mean by you're also learning from me, because I'm not, I don't, I wouldn't imagine. I guess that's what makes you the mentor. So you probably should have the superior way of doing things, or
Hopefully.
not. But yeah, or not. But not to change your ways. It's just to learn how to be a better mentor too. Do you
Yeah,
understand?
that's true. It's true. But I think if you start from like a humble place, it is the default, right? The whole point is most of the time, like if it's a technical question that has a specific solution, or maybe it has multiple specific solutions, but we talked about it in a number 22. It's like I have a preferred aesthetic, and this is what it is, and this is how I'm going to be relaying that knowledge to you of how to solve that particular problem. There are other solutions that are maybe equally valid, but this one is the one, right? So, there's not much to it. But when it comes to just generic things, like an open-ended questions, the question of what should I do with my life type nature. I can't tell anyone what they should do with their life. I can explain my experience in a similar situation and the context surrounding it and how I made the decisions that I made, or how I think I made those decisions. Maybe there were other factors that I don't know, but it's more of a like, if I were in a situation like that, given the context, I would have probably done X. If that makes sense to you, you can try doing X as well and see if it works out. But I'm not here to force people to do anything, to push them to do anything. I can listen to the experience that they're going through and try to parallel it with something similar in my life that's been happening to me and see if that resonates. And if it doesn't resonate, well, that's fine. I tried. And if it does, and they learn and they get something out of it, that's excellent, right? And so I'm not an oracle that tells you exactly how you should live your life, because I have no idea how anyone should live their life. It's always up to them, right? And that's why, again, there's that humility angle. I'm not telling anyone how to live their life, because I don't know any better. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm doing me in a way that I do it. And if the way I do it is helpful to somebody else, great. If not, well, we tried. So that's about where it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you, what's your experience like with like having a mentor?
I like it. I mean, I enjoy it, especially if it yields good results. Then it's especially so. And it's also important not to fall in the trap of saying, oh, they've succeeded because of what I told them. It's like, no, you can't. I can't make that connection. They succeeded because they succeeded. Maybe something you told them was in some way minorly instrumental, or prevented them from going on a longer, more difficult path. But I can't attribute, again, most of other people's success just to the fact that at some point I told them something. That would be, again, too presumptuous. Like, if ultimately at the end of the day it is true, I would still downplay it and be like, I was just standing around speaking things into their ear, but like, that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, say for example, what would be like an advice or like something that you learned from your own mentor? Like in your career or in life generally, something that an impact that your own mentor has had in your own in your own life or career?
I think probably it has to do with not thinking that you have all the right answers.
Yeah,
Like
that's a good
not
one.
not being very categorical about things, not trying to have absolute opinions on things, and just like overall flexibility. It's kind of hard to say it because like a lot of these things, I think about it this way. Like we all know that there are some things that you should do that are good for you. But if I were to be like, you know, Mo, you really should brush your teeth in the morning. It's really good for you. And I say it with a lot of convictions once.
Mhm.
It's like, is it gonna make you do that every day? It's like, well, probably not. There's no some grand proclamation that is gonna like drastically alter your life for most part. But tiny small things will tend to correct your course ever so slightly, and over a long period of time you're just gonna incorporate these things into how you behave, right? So I can't pinpoint any particular instance. It's like, oh, this guy said something and it was just like, mind blown, my life has changed forever. It's like, no, you interact with people, and as iron sharpens iron, so they say.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
both leave a small imprint on one another, for better or
exactly.
for worse, right?
Yeah. Th- This is what I meant earlier when we were talking about like you also learn from each other at the end of the day. But in your own experience now, yeah, how how would you describe if you get to choose a mentor for yourself now,
Mm.
what kind of personality would you want your mentor to have, you know, to
You
be
mean
able to work with you?
someone to mentor me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
hypothetically,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hypothetically.
Which would probably be a good thing if I could find someone like that. But
If you could find someone.
I think that, in terms the amount of time that I give to people that I mentor, I probably have pretty high standards.
I imagine so. So that's why I'm curious. Tell me.
I haven't really thought about it. It maybe it's kind of arrogant, but I never thought about. It's not that I haven't thought about it. It just I never thought about it for more than 5 minutes in terms of like having a mentor for myself.
Mm.
So it is in a sense kind of arrogant. I kind of enjoy the role, being a mentor to other people makes me feel better about myself, right? Because why wouldn't it? And I can admit it. It's like, yes, I like doing it. It gives myself a little bit of extra status in my own eyes, and maybe in the eyes of others too. Who knows? So I haven't really thought about it that much. Um, I think that I do kind of have a relationship sort of like that with my manager at work right now. Like we have these one-on-ones and we talk about these things in terms of direction and growth. So it's a different format because it's shaped way more by the things that are necessary to be done in my role at work. She has a very mercantile interest, so to speak. Maybe
Mhm.
not. Maybe it's a general, just well wishing in a sense, but at the same time, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done, and when I'm not uh, being, when I'm not like delivering to my most full potential, we would sit down and talk about the things that are preventing it from happening. So it's definitely helping my growth, but it's a little bit of a different dynamic because it's more reactive from like, see, either the thing that makes it so weird is like when I'm doing mentorship with me being the mentor, it's reactive because it's like, hey, what would you like to learn? I don't I don't deliver knowledge unless the request comes first, so I know what to talk about. And in that same thing, in this relationship when I'm being the mentee, it's again reactive because there's usually some feedback or criticism that I receive. It's not like I have concrete questions and be like, well, what can I do? Maybe in some way, but most of it is kind of, again, I react to things. I don't proactively go out and be like, hey, help me, plan my life, so to speak.
But how would you describe her style of mentorship then?
No nonsense, in a sense that like um some of my problems come out of non-confrontationality and overly polite, being overly polite in a sense, and like sugarcoating a lot of things. I don't know where it comes from. But again, like being non-confrontational is probably the cornerstone of it. So like I sugarcoat things as to not be more confrontational than necessary. And she's like, you should abandon this bullshit. It's not serving you. So she's very, very direct that way, And it's like, yes,
Yeah.
it's true, I should,
Mhm.
but it's stepping over your internal speed bumps and roadblocks is a difficult task, right? But I appreciate that because, when you communicate with a person who's no nonsense, no bullshit, you can cut down on unnecessarily, all that sort of, you like two dogs walking around sniffing each other, sizing each other up, trying to figure it, like before the actual
Mhm.
meaningful conversation gets started, a lot of time gets wasted on pleasantries. But with a no nonsense person, it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's go, right? Like it wasn't like, how's your day? It's just like everyone's tired. It's tough right now. Okay, let's get to the point. Which
Yeah.
I don't mind because it's really hard to get any of her time. So whatever time we do have is best spent on improvement rather than unnecessary things.
Yeah. You see, I, I have an opinion about this, and but I'm not sure if I mean if it's a good one or not. It's just an opinion. I think depending on the context, to really pass knowledge to someone, you have to build some level of trust. And to build trust, you need to have some type of relationship. Maybe not like you send each other Christmas cards or like kind of relationship, but just a little bit to be able to feel comfortable to learn from someone. But I say this, maybe I'm speaking for myself right now, because I could just keep it um, very straight to the point. We just talk about just one thing. But I feel depending on the type of um the goal for the relationship, I think maybe the no nonsense might be really preferable. But I don't. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel vulnerable when I'm talking to someone about myself. Even if I'm talking about my career, my life, I want to feel comfortable enough to tell you the things that I wouldn't want to um, deal with myself. Like if if it's good, because if it's no nonsense, I'll be looking to impress you. Because I don't think you want to deal with my nonsense anyway. I want to be able to come to you with my nonsense. And that's the reason why I need someone, because I want to bring my nonsense to you.
Right. So
So
it's just a
so
different
we can,
style. I see what you
yeah,
mean. So I guess to me, in terms of like trusting that the knowledge that this person has is good, would be mostly determined by whether or not they can do the thing that they're teaching, you know? And because throughout the day, in terms of like problem solving or root cause analysis or incident response or any of those things or ideating, I have shown everybody what I can do, and they made an opinion in terms of my skill, and now they can say, okay, he actually talks about this thing because he can do it. So I can trust his uh, advice. And I think so. It's kind of interesting. I just thought about it, but right now, culturally, broadly, we have this problem where we have these people who are very knowledgeable in some area, And I start thinking that because they're such a superstar in this one area, that automatically makes them an expert in all the other areas, and everybody should listen to them about all of the things. And it's like, no, you're good in that area, stick to your lane, God damn it. You can have opinions, but don't try to pass them as gospel and get all miffed if people choose not to listen to you on the things you're not technically, a proven expert for, And so it's like, yeah, okay, I can talk things about these things. And I also have a bunch of opinions about other things where I am not an expert by any means. And I think that they are reasonable. But again, most people think that their opinions are reasonable, and that they're true and that they're like factual or whatever, and they could not be. And I mean, maybe some of the things that I say will cause another person to think that I secretly wear a tinfoil hat and some crazy cuckoo type person, right? But to me, they're reasonable, and I have good ideas of why I have them and why I choose to think what I think, right? But I mostly don't go out saying those things because, again, like, I'm very confident in giving advice in things I know. And there's been a couple of cases where I've given advice in the things that I only tangentially am aware of, and I got immediately corrected by somebody who is an expert, and I'm like, okay, well, noted. I should shut up about things I know very little about. I can have opinions on it, but I'm not going to be espousing them because they could be wrong, and then other people can take them as truth and base their decisions on that. So let's not do that. Let's stick to the things that I actually know.
Okay. So you're saying, like, for you, the way you build the trust would be to show your expertise on certain things. That's how you build the trust.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
like, if it's nice to have a personal connection, maybe it's not, maybe, like, I'm still not sure if it's how much of it
Yeah.
helps in delivering the knowledge in a way it sticks. It's definitely necessary for the person to trust you that the knowledge you're about to impart is valid, because then they have no reason to not, like, they have no reason to reject it, right? And having a more, not personal, but more personal connection than just strictly colleagues at work type deal, I don't know if it helps or not. I think it helps because, again, in the scenario of mentorship, or in general in life, if you're helping somebody, that means that this person was doing something that they can't finish on their own. So that's a tacit admission of some weakness. And the fact that they're also going to be making mistakes as they're learning, which again is, like, people don't like to admit that they make mistakes. And so, as you said, you want to have the vulnerability, but in order to have the vulnerability, you need to know that you're not going to be ripped apart for it. And so having that
Exactly.
personal relationship in a way, some degree of it would be like, okay, if I tell this person about my misgivings and about my stumbles, they're not going to judge, they're not going to laugh, they're not going to do any of those soul destroying things, right? And I can be secure and
Safe space.
comfortable in expressing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it probably does help in that way. And again, building more personal relationships is going to be different for some people, like, hey, talk to them about their hobbies and let them rave for 20 minutes about something they really enjoy. And if you listen and you have some knowledge around it, and you can ask some questions that are kind of within the domain, so you're not a complete stranger to the whole idea,
Mm-hmm.
that only shows them as like, okay, yeah, I can talk about these things with this guy. That means I can probably talk about other things with this guy, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a building thing. It's not going to be an overnight thing, because again, there's still that, the dogs circling each other, sniffing each other,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure each other out, right? Because you size me up, I size you up, and we see, like,
Yeah.
if we're compatible or not. And the other hard thing is, the thing that's really difficult is trying to teach people who, like, annoy you at some level. like something they do just rubs you the wrong way. It's just like, oh my God. Oh, but you have to remain courteous and professional. And, and sometimes I don't know if it's like hypocritical or not, because the goal is ultimately to deliver knowledge. But sometimes you like I remember having some sessions with people, and it's like Jesus Christ, how the hell are you not getting it? Like, what the fuck? And like,
Yeah.
dude, you're like asking these ridiculous questions, like what the hell? Like, just there's the thing in front of you. How can you not see it? And you're just like, okay, well, let's try this again some other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Patience.
part is tough. And um, it's that aspect that you don't really think about when you start, that you're gonna encounter people that you maybe dislike quite a bit, and you still have to. It's not like you have to again, but I guess I feel some responsibility in like just abandoning somebody because you don't like some quirk that they have. It's kind of cruel. So, but if they manage to piss you off on top of having some annoying quirk, then it's just like a done deal. It's like, whoa, I'm out of
Yeah.
here.
Uh,
So
I understand. I can relate to that, but I can relate to that completely. Because sometimes I think the challenge is when you're trying to like explain certain things, or like you're trying to give the information to someone and they don't get it. And that's where it comes to learning about different people and different personalities. Like we all have like different ways to learn certain things. There's some people that how they learn is to argue. So you
yeah,
know what you are saying. You're the expert here. And they probably have like some fair knowledge of this thing, but they would want to argue with you, but you as the one giving the knowledge, you probably get upset, like, why you,
why are you
if
trying to
you know
one
it,
up me
then
here?
yeah. But you see, like, this is where, like, I find it very valuable to be able to learn different types of personalities as a mentor, as someone who does stuff like around different people, because everyone is different. Everyone will have a different way to learn. And
Mhm.
if you meet someone who is arguing with you about something that I think it comes to you now for you to go in your arsenal and to understand the patience and what it takes to manage this type of situation, because yeah, there will be people like this. And the annoying part also is like they don't even know that what they're doing is upsetting you. They strongly believe that they're right in what they're doing, like, and there are certain types of people who, when you try to explain something to them, they're waiting for you to be wrong, you know?
Yeah.
Just, yeah. So, like,
Well,
there's a lot of,
yeah. The the
it's
the the
complicated.
the problem with people who argue
Mhm,
is usually they're not listening to what you're saying, because they
mhm,
already they have prepared something they're gonna say next. And in order not to forget what they have prepared, they just like filter everything you say out, and as soon as you stop,
mhm.
that's when they just throw it back at you. Like, they're not really listening to you. They're just like, he said this thing and I have a good comeback to that, so well, let's wait for him to shut up, and then I can send it his way, and then everything else just you know
Yeah,
and so it's
yeah,
really difficult to do that. And I think it's best just not if to recognize that situation and withdraw from it, because there's no victories to be had there. It's just
yeah.
frustrations.
Yeah, I can honestly, that is very difficult, especially if you have the type of personality where you really don't know how to handle confrontations as well, because
Hmm.
everyone is human, so people are not very good at like handling confrontations.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would say I'm fairly okay with it, but yeah, everyone is human. And but now I want to ask you a question, right?
Hmm.
Over the course of your career so far, can you recall any challenging experience when it comes to like mentoring someone? Like the the most challenging mentee that you've ever had, and how did it go?
Hmm. that is a that is a good question. I don't even know if I can answer that you know
No
because
names, no names.
no, obviously no names. Uh, Dude, I'm gonna let everyone on a terrible secret, but I am absolutely shit with names. I don't remember people's
Same here.
names. It is a struggle for me to remember people's names, especially people that it's weird, like people that I interact to periodically, but not like constantly.
Mhm.
I mostly don't remember any of their names, you know? And I think it's inherited. My mom has the
Really?
same problem. And somebody would be like speaking to her, and she's like very polite and pleasant. At the end, the person leaves and is like,
You
do
don't
you remember
remember.
who that was? I'm like, oh, I have no idea.
Everyone
Right.
is like this. I think at some point everyone is kind of like this.
And
Most people.
so, um, when I was doing the boot camp, I mean, the weird thing is I remember a lot of people's like faces and voices and all these other things. But in terms of their names, there's like only a handful of people whose names I actually remember. So if this person were to meet me, I would be like, we definitely have interacted. I remember where. I just have no clue what your name is. And I used to be more uh like, I wouldn't like to admit that before. I would kind of try to sort of steer away, but now I just say, guys, I'm sorry, I'm real shit with names. So if I don't remember what your name is, please don't be mad. But at the same in the same vein, it's like when I was doing the boot camp and it had 30 students every 2 months in a new cohort,
That's difficult.
it's impossible.
Mhm.
So I mostly don't remember people's names. And in terms of being difficult, again, uh, I can't necessarily remember somebody being very difficult. I remember there were people who didn't really want to learn, and I would just not teach them and kind of put them out of my mind and not spend any any mental energy on that person whatsoever. So why would I even remember what that situation was? It's like, you don't want it, fine. I don't have to do this. I tried. Like, again, I mentioned last time, it's not like it's just completely like go away, but like I would try several times, and if at the end I realize like this is not going anywhere, it's like, okay, bye. And out of the mind they would be immediately, pretty much. So I can't say that I even remember. It's the weirdest thing. I remember so much useless crap, like so much. Like I can probably recite some episodes of South Park verbatim with voices.
Really?
Yes, but then I can't remember a person's name who I just spoke to 5 minutes ago. Like, is that weird or what? So
I think
no,
there's a
I
science to
can't.
that.
Yeah, I can't answer that question, Mo. I just don't remember.
I mean, fair enough, but I think there's a science to the name remembering names thing.
I
If I
just have to
find
say it in a sentence like
yeah,
5 different times, talking to that person, that like drastically increases its chances of being remembered.
probably.
But then once
If
I
I find
do,
the
once I
mhm,
do, it stays there forever.
really,
Yeah.
it's like you never. Maybe that's how it works for you. Anyway, if I find the research, there's a science to this. I will send it to you. Anyway, so my final question for you today, Vasili, is how which one do you prefer now? Like we've talked about how you feel about working virtually and different styles of mentorship. But now, with your style of mentorship, would you prefer to do in person or would you prefer to do virtually? And also,
Hmm.
would you prefer to receive your own mentorship, like from your own mentors, uh, virtually, or would you prefer to have your mentorship
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
person?
Interesting question. I think, well, I think the answer to either would be same. Like if I would prefer to give mentorship in person, I would prefer receiving it in person. But at the same time, like, okay, when I was doing the boot camp, I would come there and there'll be 30 people there, and they can, get advice from me about whatever. Maybe not all 30 any given day, but we were already there. There wasn't any additional logistics for that to happen, right? That one time I drove there and then everyone's there, we can do the thing. If I am to do this, well, like we can't necessarily meet face to face once a week because you're in Montreal and I'm in Vancouver, right? So that's already a non-starter. Yes, I have a student from BCIT, my school, that I do mentorship right now, and she's like in Abbotsford, so driving there, it's like half an hour or something. So again, like just logistically, it makes it more difficult for all involved. So I think that remote in this case is good enough because again, in these situations, there's usually some type of prepared questions or some plan ahead of time, and it's more to the point, and maybe it makes it easier. Because like if you're meeting somewhere to talk for an extended period of time, you actually need to go somewhere, and it's just logistically it just creates like all of these hurdles in place. Whereas like even when we started, we didn't even talk on a camera. We just talked on a cell phone, right?
Yeah, true.
And I would just be pacing in my backyard, and you would be doing whatever you were doing. I can't even tell because there was no camera, right? And for 2 years, that was working out perfectly fine. So I see no reason in changing it, really. I think it would be nice to meet face to face sometime and just kind of talk about something else.
Everything.
But
everything.
Yeah, it hopefully it'll happen eventually. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So if there is a chance to meet face to face to kind of just reinforce that relationship a little bit, tether it to the real world in a sense, it would be great.
We should do it.
Yeah.
It would be great. We should work on it. You know what? We should make it happen.
Yes. Episode 50 in person.
Probably.
Filming in person. Yes.
Filming in person. Deal.
Yeah.
Deal. But anyway, I think for me as well, I think I prefer to have I like the opportunity of doing it virtually because it takes away the stress, the commute, the planning and everything. It's just easy to, I guess, like I'm now very comfortable just sitting in front of a screen. It doesn't feel like I'm just sitting in front of a screen anymore because it feels very real now. But I think it also gives me when I'm comfortable, I feel more at ease to talk more and to also like share more things. And
remember that conversation we had about like interviewing remotely, where it's like you're on your turf and you're more comfortable on your own turf. So in this case, we both are on our own turf, so we're both more comfortable. So it works out better.
I really like it. I like it, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't. I'm not against, like, it doesn't mean like I dislike like the in-person thing, because I also know that we're social animals, like most people like to say, and just being around certain type of people physically kind of influences your own personality too, and influences your mind, just listening to people. But virtually or in person, this can happen. It's just that my choice would probably be virtually because, like you said, I'm on my own turf and I'm just like in my own space and it's just convenient.
But anyway. I think you have to have like a good mix of both, not to get completely disassociated from the real human connection,
I know.
This is still a surrogate. It's good enough, but it's not greatest. It still has a lot of shortcomings, and yeah.
Anyway, so thank you, Vasili. Thank you for your time today and for sharing all this information and knowledge. Thank you for always doing it with joy as well.
Yes,
that's very important.
You're very welcome. I feel energized. I was just completely drained after my long day at work. But now it definitely brought back a little bit of energy. See, just because I had a little change of activity, it made a big difference already. So yeah, thank you very much for the questions. I think it was a really good conversation. It would be fun to see if people have any comments, which they can join the Telegram channel. I'll try Shamelessly plugging it once again. We've
Yeah.
we've gained a couple of subscribers. It's been a very slow growth, but I don't know. Maybe by episode 50, the
Mm.
situation will improve. These things
Yeah.
tend to cascade. So yeah, thank you very much, Mo, and to everybody that's been with us this time. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, and have a great day.
Great day.